Oh my god, this is the biggest upgrade we've ever seen to a smartphone in my whole life. Sit down, because you might faint. All of the changes we have to go through, I don't know if I can contain them all in one video. This might be a series of every single change, but anyway, let's just begin. So first off, for the first time in a smartphone, we have a physical, actual changing aperture between f1.5 and f2.4, mixing between the two, so you have different lighting options. Should be great in low light. Been watching a lot of YouTubers who got their hands on one before it's out now. They're not really showing us what it looks like, but I bet it'll be good, and we'll find out this March. The S9 Plus now has a telephoto setup just like the Note 8, and it's $100 cheaper, so now it only costs $840 to get a smartphone with a dual lens setup. But of course, if you don't like that, you can pay $740 for the regular S9, which still has that changing aperture, but no telephoto lens. The camera has been redesigned to look a lot more like iOS's, in other words, more simple. Some people have been saying that Samsung's been trying to duplicate Animoji, but if you take a look at AR emoji, I think you can tell that it's definitely a very different thing. Just imagine Animoji if it were creepy and weird, or somehow creepier and weirder than Animoji already is. The fingerprint reader has been moved to the place it should have been all along. And if you're a diehard Samsung user, that means that while you memorize where the fingerprint reader is on your S8, now you gotta memorize a new place because they realized that every other Android manufacturer had it right the first time. There's also new DeX capabilities, which allow you to turn your smartphone to a trackpad, meaning that for all you people who have a keyboard and TV lying around and nothing connected to them, now your smartphone can power them via the Snapdragon 845 chip, the fastest Android processor we have ever seen. That's almost as fast as the 5-month-old iPhone 8, starting at $700. Also, colors are cool. There's new colors, and they merged iris scanning and face unlock into kind of a combined mode, which I was really hoping to see if that works better outdoors and in daylight, and it might. I'm not sure. They didn't talk much about it. The S9 Plus has 6 gigabytes of RAM, you know, to match that of the $500 OnePlus 5T, which can do that. And the display, no. USB-C headphone jack's the same. They now put a stereo speaker, a front-facing one, in the earpiece, just like we saw with the over-year-old iPhone 7. And it's Dolby Atmos support, which means something. That means that you're gonna feel surround sound when you're listening to 2 tiny speakers on a smartphone. Surround sound, you know, coming from rectangle in the pocket. Ooh. That stuff to talk about. More than that. Come on. Expandable storage. You had that already. You have 64 gigs of internet. No, we had that already. You know, it's the smartphone reimagined. Samsung puts it in the best possible way. Everything has been rethought from the ground up. Everything about it, and it's so very different. Super slow-mo is now an option. You can record at 960 frames per second, except it won't record for 1 second. It has to be within a 0.2 second window, meaning that you don't even get to that 960. So that's not. 4K at 60 is now there to finally match that of the 5-month-old iPhone 8. Yeah, I guess that wraps it up. Okay, enough with the excited bit. The S9 is not a bad phone. I don't want you to take that away from this video. It's everything I said it would be, which is the best Android smartphone available. Pricing's pretty good for what you get out of it. Of course, you've heard this a billion times. It's a classic design. Samsung doesn't want to mess with it, and they just enhanced a lot, particularly on the camera with this upgrade, and called it good. Personally, I really don't have any problems with smartphones releasing smaller upgraded models every year, but especially on my channel, the most common thing is brought up is, well, sure, you're hating on the S9, but iPhone 8 and 7 were barely any differences on the 6 and 6S anyway. Because if we just look at the front of the phone, not much has changed, right? I have got bad news for you guys. If you're going to judge smartphone upgrades by the way they look from the front, the tech industry development is going to look very, very boring from you from here on out. Everything's gonna be about bezel-less displays, slightly thicker foreheads and chins, and really the only way to know the difference between camera enhancements and software enhancements is physically looking at the camera on the back and seeing if the aperture is physically changing. That's what you have to look forward to in terms of what is physically noticeably changing. Can list all the differences between you guys with 6 to 6S, whether it be 4K support, live photos, 3D touch display, Taptic engine, or 6S to 7. Now with the dual camera setup, a larger battery, water resistant stereo speakers, or 7 to 8. Wireless charging, 4K at 60, even louder speakers, a true tone display that accurately measures the color temperature of the room you're container in and recreates that on the display. Faster charging via Lightning. Not even to mention, I feel like I shouldn't even just bring up the fact that the iPhone 7 to iPhone 10 was a 1-year cycle. But yeah, to be fair, Galaxy S8 was a very modern and still very current smartphone. They didn't really have to change it very much. I would have liked to see them really minimize that chin at the bottom. In this, they just kind of very lightly shrunk it just a tad. But I got no problem with the motto, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I just wish with all the people that are defending the Galaxy S9 right now, could you also apply that logic to when something like the iPhone 8 drops? And also keep in mind the iPhone 8 dropped with the iPhone 10, whereas for some reason, I don't really get this about Samsung. They like to release the primary series, the Galaxy S series, in March, which is not really a holiday season. It's not really a summer sale. It's just kind of the beginning of the year. And then 6 months later, they like to sell the Note series, which is usually like a pro version of the Galaxy S products that happens to have an S Pen in it. I guess they want to have their feet in both ball courts, but what it usually results in is both smartphone upgrades being fairly insignificant because the S9 Plus has a telephoto setup. We've seen that already on the Note 8. And by the looks of it, the camera sensors in that telephoto lens are not much different. Now, the Note 8 took great pictures, cool live photo presets and stuff like that. But now when the S9 Plus comes out, it's like, oh yeah, I remember this. We've already seen this. They like to talk more about Bixby because people were so upset about the Bixby button on the S8 and they decided to not do away with it with the S9. Every YouTuber loves to bring up that live translate feature. Now Bixby, you can point the camera at stuff and she'll live translate it, even though at the very bottom of the screen on every single demo it says translated by Google. So can Bixby translate, or can Bixby literally just open the Google Translate app? Because if it's translated by Google, is it just the camera that's different? I don't really understand. I'm still very confused by Samsung thinking that we need a dedicated button for a digital assistant that's never supposed to be used with your hands. Bixby was supposedly designed so that you could just talk to her and via voice command do everything you need to on the phone. So if it's all voice command, why have a button to activate it? Also creating features that we already had via Android apps, given this is running Android. Stuff like that kind of confuses me. But in all fairness to Samsung, I don't hate them. I don't think the S9 is a bad upgrade. It's just, I'm kind of saddened to find out that for the future of smartphone upgrades, I think every single year we're going to start noticing less and less physical changes or even software feature changes, because we're going to keep finding ourselves saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And there will be very minute changes from iPhone to iPhone or Galaxy to Galaxy. Because the smartphone companies are just going to be like, well, I guess this is good enough. A slightly better camera now with an aperture that changes. Really cool to see that in a smartphone, but I wish they would kind of let the YouTubers and the journalists that were there show off the differences between those two apertures. They just kind of showed you the back of the phone and they showed you changing it, but I thought that would mean some kind of better portrait mode or comparing it to an iPhone in low light. So I'm sure it's a great low light camera. I'm really excited to see the DxO Mark score and watch it get right under that pixel. But yeah, for all the people asking for my impressions, my thoughts, it's fine. I got nothing bad to say about it. How come all the people who were like, the iPhone 8 should have been called the 7S, aren't angry about the Galaxy S9 being a full number upgrade from the S8? Shouldn't people who think that the iPhone 7S should exist think the iPhone S8S should exist? Just a slightly upgraded version of the S8. But we're now living in a time where this has to be considered a full number upgrade. And sadly, this isn't just a Samsung problem, this is an all smartphone company problem, and we just kind of have to get used to it. What do you think of the S9? Let me know in the comments below, and we'll see how civil we can be about it. This is your Apple Sheep here, and I will see you in the next one.